Welcome back. So we're keeping our focus on this ongoing spats between Nigeria and South Africa. Well, at the moment, right now, we've got Mr. Darlington, Dr. Darlington Onojaefe. He joins us via Skype this morning. He is a senior lecturer and consultant at the Graduate Center for Management, Cape Peninsula University of Technology in South Africa. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, at the moment, the information out there, part of the information out there is that Nigeria, the Air Peace Airlines will be sending an aircraft to evacuate Nigerians who are willing to come back home. So that's the other dimension that this is taking. Give us your impression about the causative factor, about why this is going on.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. The attack in South Africa against foreigners is not new. It has been a while now. And the response has always been occasional and knee-jerk. There is no comprehensive response to dealing with these anomalies. There is no appropriate terminology that is being used to also describe the situation. So how do we address it? We need to understand and explain it properly, one, and then put together a package of solutions that can be able to ensure that this thing on a sustainable basis does not happen again. Now, one thing is for sure. Is it xenophobic? Is it Afrophobic? Or is it just mere sheer criminalities? It could be all of those. But what is the driver? The driver stems from failure of leadership in these individual countries. Particularly, the division and the problem of the ruling party in South Africa could also contribute to it. And of course, we are also seeing what we have now as the breaking down the borders in Africa, which is a brainchild of the African Union. How is that going to happen if we are seeing each other as not belonging to one another? Leadership in Africa, and in particular, the two key African countries, Nigeria and South Africa, if it is strong and effective, many of these socio-economic pariah problems can be addressed.
Let me ask you, you're over there. What do you hear as to the reason why this is happening? There are several narratives out there, but what do you think it is that spiraled out of control?
Yes, it can be two things. One, a social problem that is driven by high unemployment and poverty. Two, leadership recklessness in the communication, in the use of communication and language by the political leaders. Just early August, we have the South African government police going to CBD, which is the Central Business District of Johannesburg, to confiscate counterfeit goods. So what happens? The residents there and those traders, they resisted. The South African police reinforced and went back. So what is the reason for the police decision? There was a complaint, according to the police, that the counterfeit good is coming into the country illegally and is sustaining the livelihood of illegal immigrants. But how do you address a problem like that? Do you have to resort to violence? If the government have resorted to violence in dealing with issues of foreigners who are selling on the street, of course, then you open the floodgate for the locals. And especially the locals who are already angry with their own government, angry that they don't have jobs, they don't have food. And now, what we have here is not even affecting only foreigners only. It's also affecting South African businesses, including former businesses. I have seen the videos of macro shop looted and destroyed. I've seen the video of other South African-owned businesses looted and burned down. It cannot even be attributed to any factor at this stage, rather than saying it's a host of macro environmental factors. And at the core of it is the political leadership.
So, Onojaefe, now, another major talking point is how this is being handled in South Africa. And I see right there behind you, you're probably watching news media in South Africa. So the question is, how is this being handled by the media in South Africa? Is it trying to, quell this uprising or this violence, or how do you see this being handled by the media?
Yes, the response by the media has been very positive, and it's been very commendable. I listened to numerous analysts on the national television this morning. We cannot say that the media is misinforming. No. The problem is, what program does government have to stop this? Especially because it's not happening for the first time. Especially because it has been happening for more than 20 years. If you were to talk about crime, the crime in South Africa is not perpetrated by foreigners only. It is a criminal act that is perpetrated by everybody, both South African and foreigners. And it's not limited to the street. We have political, legal crime, and all of those kind of crime. But it has to be a program of government to handle it. Even the media alone have made a very good, noble gesture towards presenting, condemning the attack, reporting about the negative impact of this attack and why it should stop. It's not going to be good for the program of African integration. Of course not. But where do we go forward? I have just seen a news item of Tanzania. They passed a law now to stop the appointment of foreigners in Tanzania. And of course, to limit the appointment term of highly skilled foreigners in Tanzania. If you are going to use the legal approach, is it going to solve the problem? No.
Let's dwell on some of the things the Nigerian government. Pardon me, Dr. Onojaefe. So let's dwell on some of the things the Nigerian government has done so far. You've spoken about the Tanzanian government. So for the Nigerian government, we've recalled the Consul General. We're sending an envoy, which is expected to arrive today and, discuss. We've pulled out of the World Economic Forum, issued travel advice to Nigerians not to travel to volatile areas in South Africa. And now we're assisting Nigerians who want to come home to come home. So the question is, with this lineup of action points, do you think it is enough? Is there anything missing?
Yes, I think these are just initial reaction, and that will stimulate long-term discussion and dialogue with the objective of finding solution. Now, whether it is enough is another issue. There is nothing that can be enough this time because the damage has happened for a long time and is extensive. So, can we say that pay reparation? What kind of reparation? How do you pay reparation for physical and psychological damage? How do you compensate Nigerians for their goods, for the goods that they've lost through this kind of crime? Nigerian life have been lost. What of the psychological impacts? We can quantify material impacts or the cost of material damage. Can we quantify the psychological damage? Look at the reaction of the Nigerian, the protests in Nigeria, retaliatory actions in Nigeria. This is not affecting South Africa as much as it affects Nigerians themselves, because the South African business model in Nigeria is franchising. So in other words, all the businesses owned in Nigeria are in fact owned by South African businesses in Nigeria are owned by Nigerian. South African businesses in Nigeria are owned and managed by Nigeria. So you could see that there would be no quick and easy solution, and there will be no sufficient response because it's a complex problems that has been allowed to perpetuate over a long period of time. Now, we don't even know how many foreigners are here in South Africa that are doing illegal business, that themselves are illegal.
Onojaefe, one of the Nigerian diplomat that I'm sure you know very well, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, is proposing bilateral relationship, bilateral commission to Nigeria and South Africa. Do you think that's in any way able to give a long-term solution?
Yes, of course. Those are genuine initiatives. It's not like South Africa and Nigeria, they don't have genuine initiatives. They do. It's not like Africans do not have cooperative mechanisms to ensure that this kind of issue doesn't happen. They do. The problem has always been that the Commission is not empowered to function effectively. I've just returned from China where I attended a lot of cultural and social relations of China-African academic forum. You could understand that once you have a forum or a commission, it must function as an entity for relation, for research, for dialogue, and for promotion of economic and trade.
What kind of impact
for promoting all of this?
What kind of impact do you expect this commission to have in the light of what's going on so far, Dr. Onojaefe? What kind of impact are you expecting the Nigeria-South Africa Commission to have on this spate of violence to forestall it permanently?
The kind of impact that I would have expected a functioning commission to have is that this spate of violence is reduced to crime and violence only, not reduced to any other issues of macro proportion. What I mean by that? I mean that the crime, the criminal activity should be dealt with through using the judicial system, the system of law. You cannot just resort, no person, including government, should resort to violence and abuse of human rights. And those kind of impact that I'm talking about is to even bring the peace, bring close cooperation and relationship together between South Africa and Nigeria. And that is very critical. Of course, we are competing for economic resources. We are competing for individual development of both countries. But we can only achieve that competitive objective through cooperation. And that is why it is very, very important to ensure that the Commission promote competition and cooperation between the two countries within a very well-defined framework.
All right, just hang on a minute. My colleague Makwe in Abuja also has a question for you. Makwe?
So how is this, going to play out? What resolution do you see will eventually come out at the end of the day?
The resolution that should come out is, one, they should review the existing mechanism and ensure that it is strengthened to, one, reduce the number of Nigerians even coming to South Africa illegally, not having anything to really make any contribution to make this to the country. If we are not able to reduce the immigration issue between Nigeria and South Africa, the problem will continue to happen. That is one. Two, we should ensure that whatever happened in South Africa now is not happening again. And the immigration policy of South Africa, just as the South African division shouldn't be used as a political weapon against foreigners. And three, the trade between the two countries should continue to be improved upon. I'm talking about the mechanism to do the trade. That is what I'm talking about. The movement of people and goods across the two countries should be improved upon. It just doesn't mean whether we say visa-free agreement and all of those things, but there are minimum local rules. If crime can be fought within the law without resorting to the abuse of human rights, of course that will be very, very useful for both countries. I see the
Let
two
me take
countries
you up on
doing
your
very
first
well.
submission, which is that, you know, the number of Nigerians going to South Africa should be reduced.
Yes, it should be reduced. It should be reduced.
They had, they were the ones who approved the visa in the first instance. Didn't they have control all along over the number of Nigerians whom they admitted into their country, and for whatever reason they admitted them?
Well, that is true. But you can understand that for the reason they admitted many of the Nigerians turned out not to be the correct reasons. I will give you an example. Nigerians will come here to study. And in the early 2000, if you come study here, you can get job maybe after you finish your study. The situation has changed. Unemployment here is very high, just like in Nigeria. Economic activity has even peaked to the highest proportion. And there is a lot of fear within the same South Africa that Nigerians are now highly competitive within the political and the professional space. Can we say, if you finish, go back? No, you can't. But how do we regulate resettlement after you finish your study? That needs to be an issue to be discussed. And that is why I'm saying
the
that,
proposals
okay,
which you give are quite different from what the Nigerian government is mulling. There are those who are saying that they want to involve the African Union here because it's not just Nigerians that are being attacked. Other African countries, other African nationals are also being attacked. They think it's high time the African Union stepped in. There are also those who are saying, you know, that one of the reasons why xenophobia continues, comes in and goes out, is because there is no punishment for those who perpetrate this crime. So people are saying the South African government must also put its foot down and try and get those who are doing this. The Nigerian government is also seeking compensation. These are the steps that people have been talking about here. Do you see any, do you agree with them in any of the points that they have raised? Do you think any of this will work towards finally putting an end to xenophobia?
That is a good initiative, but there could always be the involvement of multilateral organizations like the AU, the UN, and the EU. It is going to happen. But is it the solution? No, not the solution. Is fighting crime the solution to this problem? No, it's not the solution. There is just a report released by the Oxfam, which says the structure of the system, the systemic structure of the economy is problematic. It creates a lot of gap between rich and poor, create more poverty in the midst of wealth. That is the heart of the problem. Now, what role will the AU play in ensuring the structure of a country distribute wealth equally and reduce gaps between the rich and the poor?
Onojaefe, talking about solutions now, solutions to this. First, you mentioned in passing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So what kind of challenge? Because look, if we've seen several responses from different Southern African countries, other African countries, what kind of challenge do you see this posing to that agreement?
The The African Free Trade Area is a good initiative. I always think that Africa has a lot of initiatives that are excellent. But the problem is, how far is those initiatives contributing to job creation? How far is those initiatives contributing to poverty reduction? It becomes an initiative of the big things. Because, of course, you cannot undermine the globalization impact. Therefore, we are talking about globalization that is basically driven by technology. And none of the African countries have any of those technologies that support global economy. So we will continue to have the resources, both natural and human resources of the continent, benefiting the global players. So the free trade area is what kind of job does it create for the locals? And how are the profits being taxed?
You know, the other aspect of this is that much as you blamed leadership across board over there and here saying they have to do enough. I mean, we've seen images of politicians making statements that could inflame passion, especially when they're contesting or vying for positions, elections. They make certain statements to appeal to the people. But then citizens usually feel that actions taken by government sometimes slow, not getting results, not knowing that, well, that's how government works. But in terms of part of actions, more actions that we need to take to sort this out, I came across an article which suggested that about in say 5-10 years, you will have 10% of the courses being taught in universities or tertiary institutions will be irrelevant because, I mean, technology is going to wipe away a lot of those jobs. So you are in the academia, for instance. Do you see African countries doing enough? I hope we still have you there. Okay, I was going to ask you if you see African countries doing enough in terms of tackling that from that perspective in the academia. Okay, looks as though we lost him there, but
Needless to say, it's a very important question I've asked.
Yeah, because I mean we see these things on a regular basis, and the world is changing real quick, real fast. What are we doing about that?
Yeah. It's really what's even painful is what he said the other time when he talked about this fracas going on for 20 years, and South Africa has had elections, you know, intermittently within those 20 years. Does that mean there is nothing that could have been done? Yes, Nigerians are affected, and we are very, very, very concerned. But clearly, from all media reports that we've had, it's not just Nigerians that are affected. Somalis are affected, Zambians are affected, Zimbabweans are affected. There definitely needs to be, you know, something needs to be done. Seriously, too.
You know, talking about the role of the academia, I think we can't overemphasize it. And I remember a Nigerian putting up a post yesterday, and he's studying there, his postgraduate. Okay, I guess we have him back now, so let's...
Okay, Dr. Onojaefe, we're winding down with this now. Let me just rephrase the question. If in 10 years, 10% of the jobs today will be wiped away because of technology, what kind of effort do you see us making? Because if that's going to create a lot, send more people into the unemployment market, what are we doing to prepare for that?
No, I think this we have discussed many times and in many forums. The technology usage or the emergence of new technology or digital or fourth industrial revolution, whatever you call it, will not wipe out jobs. It will create more jobs than it will or it is perceived to be wiping out. What it will actually do is to change the way people do business. That is what the fourth industrial revolution will achieve. Now, for instance, there are many people now who could do business using the phone, only the phone. You could do anything.
We need to go. Well, we'll definitely continue that bit in the days to come. We hope we'll be able to get you back, but we appreciate you talking to us this morning. Well, back in a moment. Stay with us.